CBOR interim, the first one of 2021. Happy New Year. Yes, so this is an IETF meeting and the note well applies, and you are being recorded, and also please go to the code EMD I have posted if you haven't already, and write down your name there, but I think everybody has done so, or Christian has done that. Thank you, Christian. So first of all, I wanted to do a little intro. First of all, we have a new co-chair. Christian has agreed to co-chair CBOR, so thank you so much, Christian. I'm looking forward to work with you. Yes, and I think most of you, if not all of you, know Christian. He's very active in other working groups as well, and really great guy. So really looking forward to working together.
Welcome.
Yes. And okay, so the next item on the agenda would be the working group document status and issues. And I got your email, Austin, that for some reason you missed the meeting. So it's good that I reminded you. So we don't have any updates today. I was especially looking forward to the OID document. So I can maybe do a quick recap of what's the status of that one. And then if you want to say anything or if you have any update, let us know. So the working group last call has ended a while ago. And I was a bit late, but I have done a review now and it's posted the mailing list, and I haven't seen any reply to that one. And also I was hoping to get a couple more eyes on it, like even very loud tone. Even if it's not no worries. Even if it's not a very detailed review, but just a approval of that someone else has looked at it and think that it's good to move forward. And I think, Carsten, you mentioned that you knew of someone else who was going to do that, but I haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet either.
Okay, so if you knew that, maybe it would be good to ping, or because right now it's really we had a two weeks working group that ended in November, and there has been some discussion in the mailing list about the draft, but I think I haven't had any reply to the thread, and I would like some reply to the thread. So if you can ping whoever it was that had missed you or volunteered for a review, that would be good.
Just send out a ping.
Okay. And yes, and let me know if you have any. I mean, my review was nothing major, was just some comments, but yes, it's still there. So you're aware that it's still open. And I would expect, let me know before we do any Shepherd review.
Yeah, so I was expecting to do another update of the document based on the reviews, and I was kind of waiting for that other review to turn up, and then it turned Christmas and I forgot about the whole thing.
Yeah, of course. Of course, I understand. Which is why we have these meetings, right?
Yes.
So that's good. So that's the status for that document. Our other working group documents right now are the CDDL control and the CBOR pact, and we had some progress during the meeting, but we haven't seen any updates. So we need to decide on what to prioritize and what to move forward, and what to put on the next agenda, for example, for the next interim. Also, Carsten, you brought up during the last IETF meeting that that we should pick up the time tag document, for example. Yeah, I think it's a good time now to maybe discuss how to move forward and what to prioritize. So if you have opinions, that'd be good.
Yeah, with respect to the time tag, there is no rush because the tag is registered and people are using it. But it's probably a good idea to pick up what we learned during discussion of the date tag and see whether we can apply those learnings to the time tag document and move this forward so it can be a working group document. I don't consider this high priority, but on the other way, it would be nice if we could get this done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I just need to check or remind me, when was this? What's the status? Or when was this updated last? And just check.
No. March 2020.
March 2020. Yeah. So it's expired now.
Yeah. On the other hand, the registration is in
it's done. Yeah, of course. So there is no, yeah. But if you could resubmit that, at least we can link it to the data tracker and it will appear in the list of documents.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. And then the CBOR pact has been updated last end of September, and the CDDL control mid-November. So I think for last meeting. So I think we had a way forward for the CBOR pact, as we discussed, and we're just waiting on a proposal from you, I think.
Yes, so we have a high-level way forward, and as usual, turning this into an actual proposal has some interesting little issues, and maybe I should bring up these issues on the mailing list.
Please do, and maybe we can discuss them during the next interim if you have posted before then. And of course, it's always like the hardest part is to start to have a proposal, and there's going to be a ton of comments. Yeah. Or it's easier to comment once there is a proposal in place.
Right. You mentioned controls.
Yes.
And I think the next step there is to get implementations of the rest of the document. So we have implementations of most of the controls, but not of the ABNF one. And that obviously is a slightly larger chunk to bite. So the question is that a problem if we wait a little longer until we have implementations of that in place as well? Or do we split it off and complete the first one? So as soon as there is a document that actually uses, for instance, the .feature control, it would be nice if we were getting close to working group last call as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned during the meeting that ASDF working group uses it, right?
Yes.
So do you know what the timeline for that one is? Do you know when?
We think we will have a working group last call in fall.
Okay.
There might be some moves to accelerate this. There might be some moves to wait a little longer. It's a bit hard to predict, but right now I'm personally still planning with September.
Okay. But then I guess like my personal preference would be to keep it in one document rather than split it up. Then it depends on you because, or whoever is implementing, it would be better to have, being able to move forward at the same time, obviously.
So Andrew Weiss has been quite quick in implementing other parts of this document. So maybe we can nudge him a bit and ask him whether he wants to do the ABNF part as well.
That'd be great. Be able to bring him, Carsten.
I will nudge him.
Okay, great. Awesome. And I think that was it for working group documents. Is there anything about working, like, is there anything that we need that would be good to have, like more resources or, for example, for the OI document, I realize that we probably need more people looking at the document. Do you feel like, does anybody feel like it would be good to have more people participating or set up better communication with, for example, other working groups or?
Yeah, there is no OID working group, but of course there is a lot of distributed knowledge about ASO.NET Object IDs in the security area. Mm-hmm. And it's good to have Russ on board here. But I think it would be useful to have a couple more people who grew up with the OID concept comment on the thing.
And my question is, how do we reach them? What should we do, or what should I do? What can we do to make this go progress faster?
Well, if you want to talk to all the security people, you talk to SAG. So yes. Maybe if we have the next version of that and are thinking this is now ready for working group last call from the working group's point of view, we could point SAG to it and ask if other people have any opinions on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Are you asking about just OIDs or about CBOR in general?
Well, the OID was an example for CBOR. But since we're starting a new year, I'm just wondering, like this working group, in my opinion, it's worked very well and it has progressed and has done a lot of good stuff. But it's good to keep in mind, okay, what can we do to make it even better? For example, for the OI document, well, we need a couple more eyes to get it. So how do we reach these people?
So my suggestion is that actually we should do a presentation on CBOR, including OIDs at SAG, as a standard encoding and just more focused on the security advantages of a standard encoding, and maybe talk a little bit. It will be a bit more of a general talk, because what I think is that the parts that of the IETF that know CBOR know it well, and the parts that don't know the CBOR don't know it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's some advantages to standardized encoding, self-describing encoding, especially when it comes to extensions and getting them right. And I don't think everyone is, you know, if you look at the 6-man discussion, I don't think everyone understands that.
Which 6-man discussion?
There's a 6-man discussion a month or two ago about a generalized router advertisement that would have a CBOR encoding, for instance.
I think it sounds good. It's a good idea. Would you be willing to take the lead on this, Michael? Or with Karsten, or
I would
don't know,
certainly
who
be
else?
willing to speak and contribute it, but I think I'm going to need a little bit of help. So yeah, I could take the lead on that, but ask me again in 2 weeks. So I had a
Karsten,
sense
would you
to
be?
think about it.
I certainly can help.
What
I
do you
have
think?
some slides on this, so I think we can build something from that.
Yeah, I remember that Karsten, you did a CBOR tutorial a long time ago, before CBOR was a working group.
Yes.
So.
But that's maybe going into a little bit too much detail,
Yeah,
because
of course.
the whole package probably should be below 1.5 hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not a tutorial; it's an overview. The other thought I had, Francesca, is so I've been through about 6 CBOR libraries in Rust and C, and they're definitely not all equal. And I would say some of them are actually perhaps actively hostile to what I think of the CBOR good points. So I don't know what we can do in terms of welcoming some more implementers into maybe not the mailing list, but maybe at least the GitHub, to deal with some things. In particular, I think that there's the issue of so-and-so says that they'd really like to have, for instance, CBOR tags in this implementation, but so-and-so thinks it's irrelevant to the whole discussion. And it would be very useful if somehow that could come into the working group as a discussion. So sometimes the people involved don't know who they are, who's who.
Mm-hmm.
So random posts to GitHub threads aren't always meaningful. You know, it's like the guy who there's the great Twitter, thing of someone arguing over the author with the author of some thing about how they don't know anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point, and it links to what I was saying before, right? Question is how to get implementers to participate.
I think we should do an implementation survey. We should ask them to tell us what they've implemented, what they haven't implemented, what they don't intend to implement.
Okay. I see something.
Yeah, maybe it's not that great an idea to ask people what they don't plan to implement. because people usually don't make that kind of plan until you ask them about it.
Well, so for instance, the Rust CERDES will never implement tags. Actively, they've made it a design decision that it does not work and they cannot implement tags.
Right.
Okay, so that is a serious, knife in the back to the whole process, because that's the standard way of annotating things in Rust to get things serialized, is to do it with SERDE. So unfortunately, that means that in this case, we have this problem if we want to have, implement, if we just want to serialize structures to disk and back into Rust with CBOR, well, that's great, but you could do it with any process. The tags become so important when you want to communicate with other implementations with a protocol. And so suddenly we can't do that with that. So that's a problem. That's a conscious decision that they've decided we're not doing this.
Mm-hmm. So in a while ago, in 2017, we started this implementation matrix for CBOR before, to set implementations actually. And let me post it. Would this be like some sort of continuation of this effort to reach out to implementers, and or what else would you want to see here, for example?
If you're trying to share something, I'm not seeing it, but
I sent it to the chat.
Okay.
So this is the approach of this implementation matrix is to come from an enumeration of CBOR features. And I think the idea of doing an implementation survey would actually come from the other end and discuss how are people designing APIs for CBOR implementations. And not all CBOR implementations are CBOR implementations. They often are implementations of a set of encoding mechanisms. And it probably would be a good idea to have this API side survey, because that's really the problem with putting tags in SERDE is not that this is somehow hard to implement or something. It's just that the API is not designed to enable that.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, and the problem, of course, is if you have to look at APIs in 30 programming languages, you need somebody who's really polyglot.
Yeah, no, I think the good idea would be to reach out to implementers and ask them to to answer the survey, not to try to find out the answer ourselves. The question is, well, I think two questions. One, we would have to relate the survey, and two, we would have to contact the implementers, which is not hard, but might take a little bit of time to do.
Yeah, and then we have to process the input.
And then we have to process the input. Right, right. So, and also for CBOR implementations, I always refer to CBOR.io implementations page. And I don't know if there is anything more that should be added here. Probably. I don't know how up to date you keep that page, Carsten.
Well, I usually react to pull requests.
Okay.
So the part that we haven't done yet is actually putting tags, in the other sense of that word, in there. So people who who look for an implementation that actually can do tags the way they are used in protocols can slog through the long list and find those implementations that do something for them. So we would have to develop a couple of tags where we can ask the implementers, do you actually qualify for that? And if we don't get an answer to a question like that, then we can tag it as unmaintained or something like that. So that would be a quite significant effort, but it's probably worth it.
Something that could ease that effort, or at least make it give us more bang for the buck, is we could try to combine this in, at least in the technologies we employ, with the work that we've started in about co-op. I think Francesca and I have started a list of questions we have for implementations and implementation, so we could build this matrix or this tagging, and at least then we could reuse all the research on development and tooling.
Sounds good. So maybe having a draft for the implementation survey, so we can explain our questions a little bit better, would be a good thing.
Yes. Who would like to give it a shot? You're suddenly quiet.
So I did say that I would think about the SAG presentation.
Yes.
And so you're suggesting that we put together an ID which contains our survey questions. Yeah, I could start that. I don't think I can finish it, but I can certainly start it.
Okay, so that's why I started by saying let's prioritize.
Yeah.
Right? Because obviously we can't do everything at a time, and we can also we are, I think, 8 today.
Yeah.
We can definitely
suspects.
Summarize and hopefully get more people to participate and get involved. But at least to start with, for this API survey, I think it would be good if you could, you or Carsten or whoever has a clearer idea could sketch something, and then we can go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll prepare some thoughts for 2 weeks from now, and a slide or two, and can figure out where we can go from there.
That sounds good. Also, we can I think it's good to do. We don't necessarily have to do this before. Prioritization wise, I think for March meeting, where we can also prioritize it during the working group meeting.
Yeah, I think
good to me.
This is a 2021 effort. It'll take a while to get the year right, won't it? I think it's not something that we're racing to do for March. I think it's something we want to show significant progress at the end of the year. I don't know if this is something that we would publish. I think as an RFC, I don't think so. I think that it's just marketing, if you like, technical marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Carsten, that was your idea to have an internet draft, but also documenting the GitHub line, whatever works, whatever is easiest. There is something associated to keeping it alive and submitting a new version, etc. That just you don't have that type of pressure with the GitHub document. But yeah, let's start with some ideas and then go from there. Sounds good. Okay, but thank you for that, Michael. Good to have more idea on how to move forward the working group.
Francesca,
Yeah.
to spin back for a minute to the overview, which may or may not be the right word, for SAG, I would suggest that that be the first of several, and that other area-wide groups like dispatch and so on, it would be a real good idea to carry that too, because I agree with Michael. There are a lot of people in IETF and the rest of the world who know what CBOR is and appreciate some of its merits, and then there are a whole lot who know nothing about CBOR, which it amazes me at this point, but it's true. And I don't think they realize, honestly, that there's a standards-based open standard for a better way to do strong on the wire encoding.
Okay, so even more marketing, if I understand.
Yeah, I'm suggesting that we use the SAG and the feedback from that to polish that and make it a perennial or a recurring activity and take it around to other area specific groups like dispatch to make people a little more aware that there's this tool and there are many library implementations and more coming.
Mm-hmm. So dispatch might not be the right. The dispatch is usually.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but
it's probably
like
area.
art area.
Yeah,
And
art area.
probably also routing area.
I was thinking of routing and art in particular, but you know what, there are 7 or 8 areas. I've lost track. And it seems like making making an objective that in the course of 2021 we sort of make the rounds and touch all of them once anyway, because there are thousands and thousands of people participating in IETF one place or another, not just the 1,000 who show up for a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And a great many of them in their work may well have no reason to discover the existence or the virtues of CBOR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds like a good idea. I think it might be good to start with SAG, possibly.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, start with
next
SAG.
meeting, and then maybe take one other area, and then again it depends on much participation or the working group is willing to to do, because
right.
Yeah, we need the people to go up and present the slides and make the slides and all of that. So. But it's definitely a good idea. Yes. Okay, and we will make sure to bring this up again and make sure that when the time comes to request a session, we find some CBOR volunteer to do that. Great.
I was thinking that the presentation could be iteratively polished. That is, it becomes progressively more effective because of feedback when it's presented. Yeah. And
I totally agree with you, Ira. That's exactly what I think is the right way to do it. I totally agree with you.
Thank you, Michael. And I was thinking, because you had put a, reach out to other SDOs, specifically of contacts that I and my immediate colleagues in Trusted Computing Group have with global platform, although they're well aware generally of CBOR, but ETSI, which has lots of groups who aren't aware of CBOR, and 3GPP and so on. And because in particularly in 3GPP, they tend to subscribe to not invented here. They go on inventing unique crypto algorithms for no clear reason.
Well, the reasons are clear. They're just not sensible.
Thank you. That's right. But I don't want to say that. But I'll agree.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The next point on the agenda was actually CBOR use in other SDOs. And this point was, I think, when we, or Carsten suggested it, this is a recurring point. It's about, if I understood correctly, CBOR use in other SDOs, so keeping track, CBOR, CDDL, keeping track of who is making use of it.
Right.
But it's, I mean, it's a good point that it would be good to reach out. But yeah, I have harder time seeing how we do that. I'm all open to suggestions.
I think that aside from people telling us that they're doing it, and us noticing that it's happening, I think that ultimately it involves probably chairs and other people simply making it's about personal contacts, which we don't get to do until for more months. And then it might be that I don't know, I'm imagining some kind of CBOR announce mailing list or something like this, but probably that's not quite right. But effectively it's somebody who has a list of contacts that we would communicate with at strategic times only, and that would be about it, right? Tell us how it's going, give us your feedback. Did you know that there's a new RFC, etc., right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
in theory, we do a bit of that in our CBOR mailing list, but obviously that our contacts or whoever these like these people, connection people, are not in the CBOR mailing list because it's also technical discussions, etc.
Right. So they either don't want to be inundated or they think they're going to be inundated, is the one side, and the other side is that some entities are just email phobic.
And many of us get too much email because not of CBOR mailing list, but because of dozens of other mailing lists, not just in IETF, and the collective effect is I have 40 to 60 new non-junk mails every morning when I open my email, and I have to wade through them. And I have to wade through them because at least a half a dozen contain something I really don't want to miss. So it's a burden. And so I think people who are active in public standards get a bit phobic about subscribing to yet another mailing list for fear that it's one of those that will have, 5 messages a day. I was thinking, Michael and Francesca, also that we all have colleagues one way and another who are active in other SDOs because that's their day job or their interest or both. And those sorts of contacts, reaching out to somebody to say, could you speak to the chair of the such and such working group and perhaps take this canned presentation, and we'll get Michael or Karsten or someone who could answer beyond the second question, the questions to join you and make a presentation. I was specifically thinking about 3GPP SA3, who badly need their consciousness raised about the fact that there is a world outside of 3GPP.
Yes. Well, I have a lot of colleagues that are in the GPP SA3 group, so the security group.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's that would be a starting point, but
my co-chair and close colleague of 10 years in Trusted Computing Group, Trusted Mobility Solutions, has been for 24 years writing 3GPP and predecessor standards in telecom. And I'm pretty sure would be happy to facilitate that. And he is also active in ETSI Security of AI, who would be some other good people to reach out to, and some other ETSI activities.
that'd be great. So once we have this presentation, we can definitely send it out and get questions and feedback, and that'd be great. So I think the first step would still be to do the or to decide as a group effort, not only on one person, obviously. But
no, I know, yeah, and to present it to SOG and incorporate feedback, because it will be quite literate feedback, I'm sure, from the SOG community.
Yeah, sounds good. I think Christian is taking a lot of notes. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you, Christian.
This will be very helpful when we go back and see what we were saying. Okay. I think we can move on to the next topic, which is what Carsten Yes, the Google Doc that Carsten posted to the mailing list.
Yeah, so something interesting is happening that I didn't anticipate would be happening, but actually I like the outcome. There are a number of extension points, well-defined extension points in CBOR and CDDL, and people are shaping proposals for extensions in such a way that they just fit these extension points. So as a working group, we can be a bit lazy because some extensions are simply done in a way that we can sit there and wait until things are registered and so on. But maybe occasionally we want to keep a little bit more control or oversight or whatever. And the proposal that I referenced is an example of something that where it probably would be good if more people were thinking about this. So there are several languages out there that would benefit from a CBOR way of representing their language structures. And what CBOR doesn't have is discriminated unions. So we have unions in the sense that you can simply define a type in your implementation or in your CDDL that simply allows one thing or the other thing. But if the one thing and the other thing look the same in CBOR, so for instance, both are integers, then you need some discrimination technique for that. And obviously the discrimination technique that is native to CBOR is the tag. But defining a tag is a relatively high effort global activity. And in many cases, you want to run a discriminated union as part of a specific program. So you don't really want to involve the rest of the world with the fact that you have 3 different kinds of integers that can go into that structure. So the proposal here is to come up with a set of tags that are kind of anonymous, but they are chosen in such a way to be relatively efficient. So you're not penalized too much by using them for discriminating unions. And yeah, you can look at the proposal, how they propose to do this specifically. I have a few little suggestions that I could make at this point. They already took some of my earlier suggestions, but I think fundamentally what they are proposing is quite sound. If you agree that having compiler-generated discriminated unions is something that CBOR should support. So my plan for supporting this from the working group was to put it into a draft. Right now, I was proposing to put it into notable tags, but we could also do a separate draft. I don't have a strong opinion on that. And just at some point turn it into a working group document so people see, okay, this is not just a tag that somebody has registered, but that is actually meant to be CBOR's main support, go-to support for compiler-generated discriminated unions.
I gotta admit I haven't read this in the quick time, but how is, I mean, the kind of the thing that comes to my mind when I think of the problem is just put it into basically have a tagged two tuple. Is this just more efficient, or is this in addition to that something else as well?
It's more efficient.
Okay.
So there are two mistakes that I made in 2013 when I thought about CBOR. And one of the two mistakes is that I didn't think, or actually I did think, but I didn't think it was worth the effort adding it, about tags with an arity of 2. So tags in CBOR only have an arity of 1, which means they are kind of inefficient if you use the pretty common design pattern of tagging a pair of some things, which, by the way, CBOR does in its tags 4 and 5, for instance. So using the number inside the tag as a crutch to get the same kind of functionality is the way to go. And they are proposing to reserve some tag space in the 1+1 space and some tag space in the 1+2 space to make it easy for a compiler to generate these discriminated union tags.
So, Carsten, as I understand it, that the reason that you're suggesting that we need a quote standardized tag for these alternatives is, I think, because the compiler is going to keep track of where they're used, and we wouldn't want the compilers to be coming to IANA to allocate them. But specifically, it sounds to me like you're also saying that the protocol designers shouldn't be burdened with describing this because the detail is really buried in the compiler, not the protocol.
Yeah, let me give you an example where it actually would be of interest to a protocol designer. So you know that Yang also has type unions. And now for some reason, these are non-discriminated unions. But let's assume Yang had discriminated unions. In which case, we would probably define a set of tags specifically for Yang to represent them. And I think it would be nice to just have a standard onboard feature of CBOR that can be used for protocols like that as well.
But that means that those protocols do not become composable anymore.
Yeah. What do you mean by become? What you would need to do a lot to make Yang composable?
Yeah, but you can't. So in the Yang case, yes, but if you're thinking of more general protocol, if you're thinking of general protocols that might at some point use some take something else inside there, they would need to say, and starting from here now the general tags mean this protocol's thing, whereas tags tags as described in CBOR can be used in any context, and maybe they are not valid there, but at least they are semantically unique.
Yeah, so my suggestion would be, if you want that, if you need that, go ahead and register unique tags.
Mm-hmm.
But if you actually have an environment where these compiler-generated discriminators make sense, then you have something you can use without having to register something that's specific to your environment.
Makes sense, yeah.
So the assumption, the unsaid assumption is that these tags would be interpreted in context. So if you have two discriminated unions and they are used in two different contexts, they might even actually use the same numbers.
Yeah, because it might also be buried within another tag that says it's a apple object versus a vegetable object versus a fruit object. Within it, you then these alternatives is the apple alternatives and the orange alternative. Is that what I understand?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, but Carsten, what you said sounded like a good idea to do I would do a different draft rather than the notable tags and submit it and post it to the mailing list. Or yeah, help the authors do that. Yeah, and we maybe can continue this discussion offline or at another interim when that is done.
Yeah, and up to then, please do have a look at this Google Docs document and send comments to the list or to the authors using the suggestion feature.
Sounds good. And we have 5 minutes left. I thought today would be a quick meeting for some reason. I don't know why I had this weird, strange idea. Okay. Last 5 minutes, I just wanted to say that we chairs we haven't done yet, but we have to request a session. And in the CodeMD, I posted the list of working groups that are our usual conflicts. And we also have a comment about any security and IoT related BOF to avoid conflict with those. If there is anything that is not here that you would like to be added, please let us know so we can do that. And yeah, that was it. Do you want to say anything else, Christian? No. Anybody else wants to say anything, add anything? Okay, then I think we can close the meeting and I will see you all in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you there.